Hello, friends, and welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast, where we focus on optimizing the well-being and best practices of insurance and financial professionals today. On this show, our objective is to help you optimize your life, optimize your profession, and learn from other optimized advisors. I'm your host, Scott Heinela. We hope you enjoy the show. Steve Prew, welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast. I appreciate you taking the time here this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Scott. It's my pleasure.
Let me do you the proper respect and introduction, please. Does that sound like a good plan, sir?
Absolutely. Take us away.
Absolutely. Okay, here we go. Steve Prew is the vice president and national sales manager at the American College of Financial Services. In your current role, you lead a dynamic sales team focused on exploring, developing, and managing institutional relationships within both the insurance and investment sectors of the industry. Before joining the American College, you held a variety of roles with increasing responsibility, including retail advisor, internal and external wholesaler, key accounts manager, national sales manager. These experiences have provided you with a well-rounded understanding of financial services landscape. A U.S. Navy veteran, thank you for your service, sir. You hold a bachelor's degree in finance and an MBA with a focus in strategic management from Regis University. You currently reside in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, with your wife, Katie. In your free time, you enjoy outdoor activities such as golfing, cycling, and bow hunting. All three of which, by the way, I would love to double click on and talk a little bit about that, but that's probably for another time.
That's a whole nother call. You bet.
I would love to talk about, do you mostly road cycle or do you also do mountain biking?
I do them both. I wouldn't say I do either one really, really well, but whoever's wanting to go wherever riding, I'm always up. So whether it's a road ride or a mountain bike. I
love that. I look forward to when you and I can get out and either ride or golf. That would be fantastic.
We do both in one day.
Wouldn't that be fun? We should do that. That would be fantastic. Anywho, let's not get off track here. We got to talk shop here. Knowledge is one of our firm's core values. Knowledge in the perspective of us internally. Look, lifelong learning. Never stop learning. The one thing you can attest to as well, and I'm sure talk a little bit about this, is the ever changing landscape of investments, taxes, insurance. I would have never thought that would be the case before I was in the industry for so long. But let me sum it up this way, and then I'll pass it over to you. It's really a commitment to lifelong learning and having a growth mindset. That is what we are all about here. We work closely with our advisors to ensure they get the optimal solution and strategy to meet their clients' needs. And I know that the American College is in that similar vein and similar light, and it's really an epitome and an example of who we want as a firm to align with. So let's just talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, I think everybody, it's a household name, the American College, certainly more on the insurance side of the world, the investment side of the world, but maybe they really don't know the makeup, the history, where American College currently sits today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks, Scott, for that wonderful introduction. And you make me sound far, far more interesting and important when I kick around. But nonetheless, bios come out great. The American College, we are, and I sometimes joke with folks, but we are literally the oldest startup in the United States. We are evolving and growing and advancing our platform, our technology, our offerings and designations on a daily basis. So we're growing and we're moving in a number of directions. But the one constant, to your point, is learning, lifelong learning, advancing and always moving forward. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. So we encourage a pathway of educational opportunities from our designations to our certificates to our master's degree programs and back. And, the American College is almost 100 years old. We started in 1927 with the Chartered Life Underwriter designation, and we've evolved that list of offerings significantly to our latest designation that just came out and launched late last fall, So our tax planning certified professional, but we are the only fully accredited nonprofit educational institution that is solely in the delivery of applied financial knowledge. And if that sounds like a tagline, it's because it is, but it ties directly into our mission for the betterment of society. And we live it every day. So that's, high level macro, who we are here at the American College. And to your point, yes, we have been vast and deep in the life insurance space for decades. But just in the last 5 years, we have really cracked into the investment side of the industry and have direct and institutional partnerships with some of the biggest names in the country. So
you had some staggering statistics of historically the customer of the American College being so heavily weighted on the insurance side, but over the last 5 years, not all kudos to you, but certainly during your tenure, you've been able to pivot a lot more. Give me some of that background data of where you sit today, of who your student are, the makeup of the students.
Yeah. So without getting too deep into the weeds, I will say that currently the American College has somewhere in the neighborhood of 130,000 alumni. That comes from all sectors of the industry, from insurance to investments, whether it's the big insurance organizations or the smaller IMOs, BGAs, P&C shops, all the way over to the big bank wires, the biggest in the country. So we span the entire industry, and I like saying the entire industry and grouping it all together, because realistically, the insurance and the investments, and as I mentioned earlier, are coming closer and closer together. And I don't see in, maybe 5 years, 10 years or less, it'll be one big industry, and it won't be quite as siloed as it always has been, insurance versus investments. But when I got here 5 years ago, and this is a testament to my boss and my leadership and the executive leadership team as a whole at the American College, committing to a move into the investment side of the industry, I would guess, and don't hold me to these numbers, but I would guess we were probably 75% of our annual designation enrollments might have been coming from the insurance, the traditional insurance side of the industry. And now, as of the end of last year, we're much closer to almost 50-50 insurance to investments. And that's really a no-brainer, no pun intended. But the investment side of the industry needs us as much or more than the insurance space, because of all the things that they wealth advisors do, and the evolution of our industry. Frankly, it's no longer about I can build a better mutual fund portfolio than you. Right? It's far more about what clients expect, which is a higher level of attention and holistic planning from life cycles to their goals and behavioral finance, curriculum. So I hope that answers the question as to kind of the evolution of where we've come from.
It does, very much so. And I appreciate those insights. It's interesting because I take a walk down memory lane. This would have been, Steve, probably in 2006 or 7. And it's no secret, our firm, our core business, it's the risk management solutions, annuities, life, and long-term care. However, the lens at which we view these product solutions, it truly is through the lens and perspective of that of a comprehensive, holistic financial planner. And so many of our core relationships are holistic advisors first, and they're integrating insurance solutions. They're not selling insurance first and then adding on investments for the most part. With all that being said, going down memory lane, I can remember being in a room of agents. This was before, this really was the paradigm of when you had annuity producers and then the investment world, and the angle, the tone that these agents had at that time, and I would say they were agents, was index annuities, and we would never, ever put our money in investments. Investments are dirty. Those are the bad people. It's like, and I'm sitting in this room, and I was, 2006, much younger, And I'm thinking to myself, this can't be right. This just doesn't make sense to me. This doesn't add up. There isn't just one solution for anybody. And that's a very, very neglective tone to have. So we're in lockstep. We're in sync. Kudos to American College for continuing to do their work and effort and do the quote unquote right thing for clients. At the end of the day, who are we doing this all for? It's for the end user, the client. It's their money, their assets, their future. You know.
I'll say this. I'll add to that thought just one quick piece, and that is the insurance and the investment sides of those two industries. And by the way, I can tell a story of personal experience. I was an advisor in a bank, and we sold annuities and funds. That was it. We had 3 annuities and 5 mutual funds. And if they, the client didn't fit into that box, you kind of figured out a way to make them fit into that box. But still,
exactly.
The foundation of every solid financial plan should and could be life insurance. If it's not, you probably skipped a step, right? So there's a natural mesh of those two that's happening, and I think will continue to happen, like I said earlier.
I think this is a great transition to now pivot to like the next generation of advisors who obviously embracing a lot more of the context around what you and I are just describing here. And you had some great insights, some great input of what you see, what you're experiencing, but also the approach that American College is taking with those next generation of our advisors.
Right. So the general view is this: the industry, and this has been happening the 20 plus years that I've been in this business, I've watched it compress, right? And it's not necessarily expanding as much as it is compressing. And that's a multitude of reasons, whether it's Reg BI or the DOL or the SEC or fee compression or the silver tsunami of advisors that are retiring out of this business. Right? Younger people, in my perspective, and in a lot of our institutional partners' perspective, younger people don't necessarily see the appeal or the draw of being a financial advisor. And that's because the person that they know and think of is their parents, financial advisor that, is almost of the past. They see things a little bit differently, right? And it ties into the next generation of how are these big institutions going to recruit and where are they going to find the next generation of talent? They're going to have to take a little bit different approach. And part of what we're seeing also with some of our larger partners is there's this slow evolution of younger people away from traditional 4-year education. They're starting to lose the appeal of a 4-year degree and the giant number of debt, the dollars worth of debt that comes with it, only to get out in the job market and figure out that their bachelor's of anthropology isn't necessarily going to get them very far, and they end up coming into the financial services business anyway. A lot of these organizations are recognizing the fact that kids can come out of high school, come right to the American College, get a WMCP to get foundationally started, get their Series 65 license, and a number of organizations would hire that person straight off with no experience and get them moving. They're going to have that core foundational education. They're going to have a pathway that leads them into a more advanced designation like a CFP or a CHFC. And then they're going to be able to build into their business. And 20, 30 years later, they might look back and maybe at some point during that time, they'll go back for their bachelor's degree like I did after the military and worked in the industry for 10 years. So that's really kind of what we're leaning into a little bit. If there's a story to be told, I think every single organization out there today relates to that. And I think they fall in line with that, thought process. And we're just here to help them find that education and potentially figure out how it best fits.
So that leads me into, do you also think about what you're seeing with this next generation of advisor as it relates to, I would say, the lifestyle changes, the way that the current or the next generation of advisors is viewing their practice, viewing how they manage their time? What do you see in that regard, and what insights do you have there?
Yeah. Yeah. It's far more consultative and relationship driven, right? If I just met a young man the other day right here in Denver. He had been in the wholesaling side of the industry, newly married. I want to say inside of a year or two, maybe at the longest, but looking to start a family and just simply can't be on the road as much as an external wholesaler requires. So he's starting his own RIA, and he's starting from scratch. And he's a young guy, but he's all about connecting with the client, understanding who this person is, where they are in their life cycle, what their goals are, what they, it's not about, what job are you at? How much money do you have? What's your risk tolerance on a scale of 1 to 10? These traditional questions that have been asked time and again. They tend to want to try to connect on a deeper level, and I think it's wonderful. I think it creates client retention all day long because it's not a sale anymore. They'll get there, right? And the portfolio execution and setup and modeling and all of that, that'll come at the end of the conversation. But the bulk of it, 3/4 of it is spent on getting to know who these people are. And I think it falls right in line with the compliance oversight and know your client. I mean, it's just natural. That's what I see a lot of the younger people coming in at. And they're looking for niches in their business. They want to relate to people that they know, or have similar hobbies, or hang out in similar places, or whatever. Follow the Optimized podcast, maybe.
That's exactly right. Cheers. Nice plug. It is interesting. It's definitely much more relationship oriented than the old guard. I think generally speaking, certainly it's more like-mindedness. All of that is true. I think it's also more of an approach of really truly being comprehensive, that there isn't just one product that fits in every hole. So it's more challenging from that perspective as well, all of which I think are true. Let's talk a little bit more about the designations. Certainly you've got the gold standards and the CFP, and very, very good, the CHFC, the CLU. I mean, these are the foundational credentials and designations that our profession has had. Thank you, American College, to CLU, for 100 years of having that designation. But beyond that, and maybe you could just touch a little bit on those, but where I think American College is a differentiator is the innovative designations. You mentioned the TPCP, the tax planning one, which is your newest, but also retirement income, the wealth management. I mean, these are very specialized. And you also touched on the shift away from four-year education of getting specific education in what my trade or profession is going to be. And I don't know that there's anything that exists on the marketplace like what you've done here.
We really are a marketplace of one, right? In that we have competitors out there, and you can go and get CFP education at a number of places. All of them are going to deliver the curriculum and the content and the knowledge that you need to be able to sit and pass, hopefully, the board exam, the CFP board exam. That is, to your point, still the big gold standard, whether it's the marketing machine that is the CFP board, or whether it's truly the content. We deliver that and have for a long, long time. I think we're still number one in that space for numbers of enrollments and first-time pass rates and all of those key metrics. But the biggest thing that struck me when I got here 5 years ago is that list and how deep it was for the American College and how much content they had in a number of different areas. But what I really wanted to get to is why and how. Why are these designations so important, and how do they evolve and tie into one another to create to your point earlier, a lifelong pathway, a lifelong learning opportunity that somebody can follow? That's why we started out with the WMCP, the Wealth Management Certified Professional, because it is all of those things we've been talking about. It's life cycle, it's goals-based, it's behavioral finance. It teaches people how to have one of the most sensitive and important subjects in people's lives, and that's about their money. How do you even start? But then we tie it into a CFP. So when you complete your WMCP here at the American College, which by the way can be done in 12 months or less, you walk with a 2-course transferability credit into a CFP. As far as I'm aware, we're the only organization that does that in our industry, that creates that pathway. But then to your point, the coolest part about all of this is the fact that we have these designations out there that are somewhat specialized. Right? The tax planning certified professional. Nowhere else in the industry can you get that other than at the American College. The chartered financial consultant. That is our proprietary designation that directly aligns with the CFP. Exact course content, curriculum, and rigor as a CFP with one additional course. Biggest difference is you don't have to have a bachelor's degree to hold the CHFC. So it ties right back into the story I was telling earlier about young people coming out of high school and being able to enter into a trade of sorts and create a career for themselves. Once they're in their business, they're building a book, they're 3 to 5 years in, and they're starting to find maybe their client base has a bit of a niche that they could work towards or grow even more. That's where things like our chartered advisor of philanthropy come in, our special needs consultant, the RICP, or even the CLU if they're not in the life space. Maybe that's more of a specialization for them. But we're going to continue building on this so that, no matter where you are in your career progression, you can come to the American College and find something that's going to fit right into where you are and make you a better holistic overall advisor.
Okay, so I've got a question. You mentioned the WMCP going into and working towards your CFP, and there's kind of a feeder curriculum there. Makes sense. Same side, same coin, different side. What would you say to that advisor who's a 65, 66, they have a CFP? Is there any need for them to consider a WMCP at that point in their career?
I think so, but I'm biased, right? I would say absolutely, because like we said at the onset, lifelong learning, you're either learning or you're headed backwards. And if you are in that place in your career where you've built a successful book of business, you are you're satisfied with your AUM and your GDC and all of those metrics and everything's good, a WMCP could potentially give you the opportunity to reset your focus and reset your perspective a little bit to come more in line with some of these things that we've talked about, right? That maybe it's what has gotten you here may not get you the next 10 years or may not help you, identify or connect to the person that's going to success into your practice, right? So maybe you're looking for a way to just continue to learn and pick up some CE credits and maybe put a little bit of extra letters behind your name, but still you're building in the sense that you're going to now be able to better connect to your clients, have a more holistic approach and a deeper relationship with them. You might also be able to better connect with the folks that you're bringing into your business. Maybe you're hiring junior advisors. Maybe you're looking for a successor. This is a great way to bring yourself into what the industry is progressing towards. So you're not going back, right? But you're advancing forward just in a different way. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense to me. Certainly at a firm level of new blood coming in, certainly the context of lifelong learning. The one thing that I also, and I understand the curriculum probably adapts and evolves a little bit over time within each of the designations, but I do know that the WMCP at one point was geared more towards higher net worth individuals. Or so maybe I'm that CFP or that advisor that's dealing more with blue collar individuals at this point in my career. I'm looking to shift my client base and perspective, gain some more expertise and knowledge in how to attract and retain or onboard, if you will, higher net worth clients. That might be a good fit.
It really is. And that's a great connection point, Scott. The WMCP was originally built one big course, primarily aimed at higher net worth, ultra high net worth, because of the fact that it dives deeper, because of the fact that people in that category, high net worth, ultra high net worth, naturally expect more from their advisors. They always have, because they have bigger portfolios and bigger needs and more complex things to talk about and handle than just, here's 2 funds and an annuity that I can sell you, and we'll call it a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the reason, and speaks to the rigor of the WMCP, the fact that it does transfer 2 course credits into a CFP for a course program that takes 12 months or less. That's significant.
Yeah, that is significant. The other thing I will say, as a student, former student of the RICP program, the one thing that was so enlightening for me and refreshing is probably the better way to put it. I think ties into the things that the college is doing from an innovative standpoint as it relates to the delivery of the content. I absolutely enjoyed the conversational format of the content and the content and the curriculum. Excuse me, where it was more of this broadcast format. At least most of it, I would say probably 2/3 of the content was delivered in kind of a newsroom setting where you had, host, subject matter expert, 1 or 2 people, and having a dialogue. And it would only subliminally peel away to facts and figures. And that was such an effective way to keep me engaged in working through that curriculum. It was also so well-rounded, I think, covering all the facets of how individuals receive income in retirement. So I just wanted to say I appreciate how much the college is focused in shifting away from PowerPoint slide deck, recorded audio. I mean, there's no quicker way to get somebody disengaged than that. Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you, when I was taking my CHFC courses a long time ago, when I was an advisor in the bank, I think you called an 800 number and ordered your books. The books came in a mail, and then you just cracked them open and went at it. And then when you thought you were ready, when you thought you'd covered that content, and that you went and signed up for an exam. And, there were opportunities to go to local colleges and sit in on, presentations of the content and things. But it was far different than it is today with our personal pathway model, which we built and is proprietary to the American College. It's through decades of research around how people learn best. Some are visual, some are, readers, some are listening. But when you can take all of those aspects and deliver them in one mode of what we call the personal pathway, that includes, traditional video presentations, there's quizzes, there's interactive time with the professors weekly, where they'll go over certain topics that are sticky or typically harder to understand, a little more esoteric perhaps. And then there's discussion forums like you would see or witness in a normal 4-year college, where it's an e-learning environment. You're connected to those peers that are going through the same content that you are, right? And so it's really, really interactive and helpful. And our pass rates are really second to none. For the CFP, we have the highest percentage pass rate, first time pass rate in the industry. I think it's just north of 70%, somewhere in that neck of the woods. But that's also a testament to how that content is delivered.
That's fantastic. Side note, and we keep moving. I am also an active student, currently going through the CHFC designation. Practice what you preach, man. So yeah, doing our part. Let's go off of the designations now and look at the events. And I break it down in 2 ways: virtual delivery and in-person delivery. And I got to tell you, I give you incredible kudos for the virtual platform that you've developed. Things like the EdSlot 2025 IRA Revolution, but also the in-person events. I believe it was called Horizons. Yeah. So talk a little bit about those two models and what's happening in that world.
Yeah. I mean, a ton of content out there that is pre-recorded, delivered via video. We also have periodic online webinars and things. So you get live interaction with the professors and and our academic faculty. But the Horizons event was our inaugural event in this area that we have never really invited our institutional partners to come out and be a part of our events, because it was always seemingly a little confusing maybe for the advisors there to come into an American college event and here's, this company or that company. This was the first time we'd ever done that. And we kept it relatively small, however. So we were looking for 300 to 400 advisors. We had a really broad list of the brightest minds in the industry, from Ed Slott to Michael Pinka to Wade Pfau to David Blanchette to Jeff Levine, and a number of others. So it was really an academic, educational event. There were no mutual fund wholesalers or otherwise doing product presentations or, hundreds of breakouts around the newest product in whatever side of the business. This was truly an academic and a very sort of intimate type event. It was sold out. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. We are already planning for 2026. We don't have dates yet, so stand by, follow the American College on LinkedIn, and you'll get the constant updates and feeds as to when it's coming, and save the dates. But it really is a unique event in the sense that people walk away with actionable items, things they didn't know before, things they need to dig deeper into. And perhaps it lights a little bit of a spark in people in that lifelong learning aspect of what we do. Maybe I'll go back to the American College and I'll look and see and grab a designation that makes sense for my own individual business. One other one that I want to make note of, and this was prior to Horizons, the only large in-person event that we would do for the American College of Financial Services is our CAAFP. This is the Conference of African American Financial Professionals. And this isn't something, Scott, we fired up after George Floyd. We are coming into our 20th year of the CAAFP event, held in Atlanta last summer. I think we had just over 1,200 attendees. It is the largest event of its kind in the country, and we're really, really proud of that one. And that one just continues to grow. So those are the couple of things that we have out there, and would love for Optimize to come out and be a part.
We would love to. We definitely will. It's an area where we can, I would say, innovate as a company as well, in the sense that how do we strategically align and leverage some of the great conferences that our industry as a whole has been able to put together. And the Horizons is a prime example of that, where it's rooted in academia. It's not flooded with I'm going to say just all the niceties and the fluff of having these product vendors and all this other noise. And not to say you don't have any, but to really have it rooted and founded in the fact that this is about the thought leaders. This is about putting the best minds in our industry, both investments and insurance and tax, and maybe even more, estate planning and other ideas of that nature, where people can really go and sharpen the saw, so to speak. So keep doing it. We look forward to the next year. Let me ask you a question. The webinars, the virtual content, video libraries, are those available only to students of the college, or is that available to the public at large?
It's available to everybody, and it's a wonderful segue, Scott. You're hired. If you want to come and work for the college, you come along. You can tell the story as well as I can. But the Knowledge Hub is what we built last year, relatively new. For decades, we sold the car, but we didn't sell the parts, right? And everybody would always ask, how do I get my CE? Where do I have to go to get my CE? Well, you can go to this event or that event, or you can do this. Now it's all in one. You can come here, you can get a designation, you can fulfill your professional recertification requirements directly through our Knowledge Hub, where we have 65 plus hours of, and growing, of CFP, CE creditable content that is searchable by topic, So you can go in if I got a client coming in an hour and I need to brush up quickly on Quadros or whatever it happens to be. I can go to Knowledge Hub Plus, type it in, and it'll pull up everything we have already loaded into the library on that topic for you to review. And as you do review these pieces, you're gaining CE credit. So now this is free to American College alumni. It's only $179 annual subscription to anyone else. If you ask me, that's the most smoking deal out there, because to have one place to go fulfill my entire CE credit needs, that's worth that much all day.
Amen to that. Thank you for that. And it's really an example of just doing the right thing, of putting good knowledge out there that's easily accessible, especially with our busy lives. So great work. Thank you to the American College. Thank you, Steve, for coming on this afternoon. It was great to spend a little time with you. I look forward to when you and I get to meet in person and play a little golf or do a little mountain biking.
We'll have to do it sooner rather than later. Thank you, Scott, for the opportunity. This has been fun. I enjoyed the time, and thank you for the support of the American College. We look forward to building our partnership.
Excellent. Thank you. Take care. Cheers.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment, or review. Be sure to check us out on social media at Optimized Advisor Podcast. Till next time.